There we go. We are recording. All right. 1 second. And so when you log into Naviance as a parent or a student, you will be going to student.naviance.com/South Pasadena. Now, there are multiple schools who use Naviance, but it is definitely very particular to our school. We do a data dump from Aries every night. And so that allows, student information, parent information, as well as grade information to be pretty consistently updated within Naviance. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as a student. So you're going to see it from a student perspective, which is it's pretty much very similar to what you will see when you log in as a parent. So let me go ahead and do that now. Oops, sorry. So when you're, oops. I think I'm going to have to stop sharing for a little bit and do this on my own because it's not allowing me to. Your child or children at South Pasadena will log into Naviance via Clever because their student accounts are connected to their student email accounts. And so it's just kind of a quick single sign-on. However, staff and staff and parents will need to go on the website. So I am successfully logged in to my student account. And so the default is always the home page. I do want to briefly go over the home page because there's some pretty good information that you can see here. So there's always going to be that welcome letter, and this gets updated every semester. You'll see your favorites related to college and careers on the upper right-hand corner. We don't really do the to-dos and tasks at this point in time, so that's something that you can overlook at this point in time. But this area right here, what's new, this, especially in the fall semester, we'll have a bunch of college visits, and then these are the dates. And then if you want to click on more info, you will click on more info and you will get more information. So that's the college visit. And this information is found different ways as well. Now I've scrolled towards the bottom left will have document resources. And so you can see different e-folders. And these are a lot of frequently used counseling forms, but just an FYI, every counselor has a Google Classroom, and we found that we have put a lot of our documents on our Google Classroom. And bottom left from my school, here's some frequently used websites. So you don't have to, go to Google, type it in. All you do is click on the link. And then because this is a sophomore presentation, I have made myself a sophomore student. We will put our fall and spring letters here for you to access. Okay, so that is the homepage, the quick version of it. Now, sophomores, the sophomore theme is career. And so we do start our students on just a career conversation this year. And the timing of that guidance presentation related to career will be in spring. So what I'm going to show you is the curriculum that we're going to do in spring. So your current sophomore children have not done any of this yet. But the theme for 10th graders is career. So Naviance the format is new this year, and I'm going to point out a few items that are new. And so if you had any students that were using Naviance last year or any previous years before summer of 2021, that they won't have access to some of the stuff that I'm talking about. And what I'm mainly talking about is the self-discovery tab. And I want to point this out. So when you click on the self-discovery tab, in the middle top section of your home page, you will get this drop-down menu. So this is the home. If you click on home, you'll go here. And then what you will see is a suite of assessments. And this is new as of summer 2021. So again, if you had students using Naviance last year, they didn't really access this, nor did they get trained on this, but they will from this point on. So there are a couple of things. There are actually a few inventories or assessments that we did with students prior that got renamed. So one of them is AchieveWorks Intelligences. This was formerly a multiple intelligence assessment. They also renamed our learning styles inventory, which is now called AchieveWorks Learning and Productivity. It's a lot to say. And then we used to do a personality inventory called Do What You Are, and now it's been renamed AchieveWorks Personality. So these were these three, and then also the career interest profiler were the inventories that we used previously, but now Naviance has improved and added more assessments. And so that will mean that we will have a change in how we deliver the career information. And so we are going to incorporate the career cluster finder, the career interest profiler, and career key in this year's guidance. But if I can just point out the AchieveWorks Learning and Productivity learning styles and Do What You Are. If your children are, well, if 10 and older, 10th grade and older, they should have these results that you can view from your parent account. They just rolled over to the new name. And so I'm going to just briefly describe all of these, and please forgive me, I am going to read a brief description for each, just so I capture all the correct information, and then we'll go from there. So AchieveWorks Intelligences is related to multiple intelligences, and it does help students uncover different ways of dealing with information, problem solving, and creating things. This learning and productivity will help students identify their sensory and mindset preferences so they can develop really good study habits. And so students will learn how to, or they'll find out how they learn best and how they can be the most productive. I find this one to be very, very helpful and practical. The next one, AchieveWorks Personality, is our personality inventory, and it does help students identify their personality type. And the results include students' personality type based on Myers-Briggs, if you're familiar with that, and provides tips to achieve success, as well as best fit in career options. So there's that tie-in to careers. AchieveWorks Skills helps students identify and develop their skills and connects their skills to careers that interest them. And the results include a current skill profile and provide recommendations for students to continue to develop those skills. The Career Cluster Finder help students figure out which activities and school subjects they like or dislike. And again, all of these students are faced with either certain scenarios, or do you like this, or do you dislike this? And based on their preferences, their reports come out. So again, in this Career Cluster Finder, students will learn how well each of the 16 national career clusters fit their current interests and qualities. And this is based off the National Career Cluster Framework. And these often also align to academic programs and majors in schools and post-secondary institutions. This one, the Career Interest Profiler, helps students identify their personality traits and careers based on the U.S. Department of Labor's data. The Career Key helps identify traits, best match work environments and related careers by asking questions about interests. And then Strengths Explorer is related to Gallup, and it helps students uncover their talents and reveals their potential strengths to themselves and to people in their world. And from here, students develop top 3 themes in the areas of natural talent. So we are going to revamp our guidance presentation for this year's sophomores and future sophomores to encompass these new assessments. And so I did want to introduce a self-discovery. So in this particular student example, what students can do here is once they've taken these assessments, and they take about 10 to 20 minutes depending, they put their answers in and they get results such as this. And so this one in particular is Achieve Work Intelligences. You'll get your top intelligences. You get an emotional intelligence score, and it describes your strengths, or if this is a challenge for you, what the potential challenges will be. So it goes into a great deal of depth. And then students, and this is a new thing, they can retake any of these assessments at any time. It used to be the counselor would need to reset it, but now they can just do it on their own. The only thing that cannot be reset and can only be taken once is a Strengths Explorer. But once students input their, for example, their career inventories, what they are going to be presented with is a series of clusters or specific careers that they can favorite if they are interested in that career. And so what I want to go to now is the career link at the very top middle. And so from here, you will see a drop-down menu. And then the very first link on there is favorite careers and clusters. So from here, if a student finds that, oh, they're interested in this particular career, they can heart it and it will appear in this area right here. So when you click on careers, favorite careers and clusters, this is what shows up. And so I did this. Here are my favorite careers, and then here are my favorite clusters and pathways. You can also get this information a little bit differently. The next two links in the careers drop-down menu are Explore Careers and Explore Clusters and Pathways. So if you click on here, you can find specific careers by typing in. And it might be a little fussy, so if you don't get it completely right, you might have to try different ways of inputting them. Because I tried to put in school counselor and it did not come out as school counselor. But this is an alpha order. So if you wanted to be an accountant, this is easy just because it's the first one. You just click on it. And then you get a really good overview of what being an accountant is like. It does highlight which cluster. Again, that's a national career framework, the cluster is. And so this is where it falls under. Here's a general overview of what accountants do. Here are the wages across the United States. And I find that students really find this super interesting. So you can just scroll on the state and see how much on average an accountant makes in the state of California or whatever state you're interested in. There's a lot of data that is related to John Holland's 6 personality types, and he did a lot of research on career and personality. And so the information down here connects to that. Related majors, related careers. So this is what's available to students in the overview. Then if you click on skills and experience, here's the knowledge that you need to have in order to be an accomplished accountant. Skills, abilities, daily activities, and tasks. So the student who thinks they have an interest in accounting reads through this and gets super excited and feels very confident that, yeah, this is what I want to do day in, day out as a career. This can be a very confirming type thing to, read through these. Going back up to these little descriptors here, here's another place for wages. But this one is broken down into a little bit more detail. So wage ranges by state. And so it's color coded where Yellow is low, purple is median, and then pink is high. And then you can add more filters. So if you wanted to, search by a couple of different states, you can do that as well. And then because we're in LA, it lists different counties and averages for accounting. And then upcoming events, we don't have a lot of information here quite yet. This is a new feature of Naviance that we are still needing to build up. So at this point in time, we're just going to focus in on other aspects of career. But when you go to careers and you click on explore careers, you can just type in and do a search by alphabet. Now, if you go to clusters and pathways, this is another way to explore careers. So these clusters, this is a national framework, and there's 16 clusters or groupings of different types of careers. So this one is agriculture, food, and natural resources. I'll go to education and training. That's a career cluster. So when you click on that, you will see kind of 3 different subheadings. So since I'm an educator, I'm going to click on professional support services. And then you can see employment outlook for professional support services under education, the types of credentials that you need, the related occupations, related majors or possible studies of majors. And then if you click on these, it should also direct you to schools that offer majors leading to that career. So that's a cool little feature right there. And then this plan of study, and I'm gonna try to make this bigger for you. Oh, Zoom. This is an example plan of study, but of course it just needs to, you need to consult at the secondary level with the high school counselor, and then they have a post-secondary example plan of study. So this can give you a fairly good overview. Again, this is general and not specific. So once a student gets to their post-secondary campus, they can get into the specifics of how to become this type of educator. So this is what you can find under the pathway information when you go there. So it's pretty cool. And then the other cool thing, and this is what I want to point out to you, and we need, as a counseling group, we really, really like this feature. But what Naviance has done is compiled a list of career videos and partnered with an organization called Road Trip Nation. So a bunch of young people who travel in a van or a motorhome, and they go all over the place, all over the nation, and interview people with different careers. And they make little videos and they load it up. And so Naviance has partnered with them. And within Naviance, there is an archive of all the videos that Road Trip Nation has done. So within Naviance, there's over 8,000 videos, and it chronicles the diverse, personal stories of people and their jobs and how they got there. And you can do searches within Road Trip Nation under 5 topics. So you can do what's your road or find your road, and you can start here, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Or you can search by interest, by themes, or by leaders. And so if students want to do find your road, you can define your road, and you can choose, step 1, what interests you the most? Let me just say helping people. And so once you pick something there, then you go to step 2, and then you choose an interest. Let's say my interest is, education and food. So when you choose that, it'll bring up several videos related to what your preferences are. And so this guy right here, Matt Severson, is a founder of an organization called School Fund. And so it has a lot of themes here that's discussed. It has all his videos in his bio. So it's just a really cool way, for our students to see what is out there and what can potentially, be out there that aligns their interest, values, and skills. So that is, again, under career, explore Road Trip Nation's videos. So I love Naviance. Naviance has just a ton of information, and it's almost a rabbit hole exploring all the different aspects of career here, and even college too, which I'll talk about in a second. But for road trip video, you can explore. I mean, here's just several ways of locating potential videos of interest. So you can explore, you can go to What's Your Road, you can go to interests, you can go to themes, leaders, and there's also what's called playlists.
I grew up in South Louisiana, about 30 miles from the Gulf.
Right. Sorry, I'll just pause that. So just want to let you guys know that that's out there. Okay, so this is essentially in a nutshell what we are going to provide in terms of guidance for the theme of career for your sophomores, and that will be in spring. And so we'll let you know that, and usually we'll announce it through our Google Classroom as well. And then once your child finishes up their assessments, you can view their results. You and your child can view their results. So in the time that we have left, I do want to highlight things that are overarching across the grade levels, not just for sophomores. So I want to highlight the college tab. Okay, so when you click on college, you get 4 columns. Now, the college tab is a tab that students will use all 4 years. And what I like to say to students, and for this particular presentation, I am only going to focus in on research colleges. So when you get into different grade levels, if you so choose to attend future Naviance presentations, this will be explained in a little bit greater detail in upper grades. But for a sophomore, and I tell all the kids in the first 3 years of high school, in your 9th, 10th, 11th grades, you're going to be thinking about college. So this is where they will be heading towards when they're in their Naviance. So colleges I'm thinking about, and students get the option to list colleges. And actually you as parents, and this is probably one of the only things that you can do in Naviance on your own, is to add colleges to your child's list. And then they'll know that it was added by you, because here under added by, it'll say parent. And then here you can see that the counselor added a bunch of colleges, and then the student herself added some colleges. And so what I like about Naviance college tab is you can find a wealth of information just by clicking on a link about this particular school and these particular schools. So I'm going to click on Cal State LA for now. So when you click on any hyperlinked college name, you will get directly sent to a ton of information about the school. Here's an overview of Cal State LA. Here is areas of study. It'll give you all these data points, all the majors. Student life is another option for students to research: gender, age, residency status, international students, and it gives statistics. Admissions, how do you apply? Here's the deadline, here's the application fee, the acceptance rate, and other important policies. And then again, because Naviance is a South Pasadena, our Naviance account is based specifically with our students' information and history. You will get our high school's application history, because all of this data has been collected since 2009. And this is a feature that I really like, because I think it's just such a great visual. This is called a scattergram. Cal State LA has a bunch of data points on the scattergram, just because a lot of our kids end up applying. And so here's the legend, and you can see, in comparison to me, I don't know if my GPA is in there. Usually I'm represented by this icon right here. which maybe my eyes fail me, but I can't see myself quite yet. But usually you'll be able to see, the student will be able to see himself or herself. And these are all the kids. Every one of these icons represents a student who's applied to Cal State LA. The green check means they were accepted. The red X's means they were denied. And then there should be a wait list one too, but they don't do wait lists because I saw that earlier. Whoops. Sorry, I should have picked a different school as an example to show you wait list, but you can do it from an SAT perspective or an ACT. Now, given the pandemic, those numbers are going to be slightly off because a lot of our students did not have the chance to take the SAT or the SAT in the past couple of years, but depending on how we go with the pandemic, that may or may not change in terms of the information that you can access on Naviance. And then last but not least, cost of the school. How much does it cost to go annually, room and board, average net price, and percentage of those receiving grant? So there's just a ton of information. So what I also like in this feature of Naviance is the Compare Me link. So the GPAs are very much updated consistently from Aries into Naviance. And so when you click on the Compare Me, you will see, or the student will see his or her GPA in real time. But really the GPAs get mostly well, they will get updated at the end of the semester, at the end of the semesters. So this student has a 332 GPA, and then the GPA is compared to all the schools on her list. And so if it's within range, you'll see a green check. If it is a red X, that means the student's GPA is slightly under. There is information and comparison information for ACT and SAT and ACT, and then it'll give you an acceptance range. Like, so 12 students who applied from South Pass got accepted out of the 26 total who applied. That's what that means. And so especially when students are in their younger years of their high school career, you know, if I had aspirations to go to Fordham, I really wanted to go there. Their average GPA is a 372. Mine currently is a 332. So that means I need to earn higher grades, you know, to at least get in that range. And so that should dictate how I behave in school day in, day out now. So that's why I like that information. So that's just a general overview of college. And when you go to Research College and college visits, this is another place to find college visits, like I initially showed you when we first began. And then really other things. And once your child becomes a junior, we're going to go into these in greater detail. And then the last thing I also want to show you, and this is pertinent to sophomores, is if I can just move my screen, sorry. Okay, I'm going to direct you to the upper right-hand corner of your child's account. Where it says log out, there's this little, to the left of it, there's a little purple circle with your child's initial, and then there's the About Me link. Click on that. And you will see this drop-down menu, and I want to highlight where it says document and notes. There is a resume builder in here. I'm going to highlight two things in this section. One is the resume builder. And I like this feature because it is dynamic. So as your child does stuff, or, you know, participates in activities or earns awards, they can add all of that in their resume. And so I encourage students to update this as frequently as they need to. So by the time they're senior year, when they're asked to, you know, give a resume to either their college or their counselor for a rec letter or their teacher for a rec letter, they can just have it ready to go. And so you can add all of these things. So if I wanted to add volunteer services, I can, input the information and then save it. So it's a running kind of a resume as things get completed. So wanted to highlight that. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight in the About Me tab is the portfolio. Okay, so go under About Me, Document Notes, and go to this third link down called Portfolio. So if your child has done assessments, this is where all the results this is another place where the results will be housed. So it's just kind of a portfolio of everything that they've done. So here's my Strengths Explorer, here's my personality type, here's my learning and productivity results. So just all the reports. And so you can find that on the self-discovery link, and you can also find that here. So that's pretty much what I want to highlight. I'm going to stop my share right now and then end our time with ways to support your children using Naviance. And then just a word about parent role. The only thing that you can really do is to add colleges to the list. Otherwise, you can't affect anything that you see on your child's Naviance. Only your child can, input and do the assessments and get the results and all that good stuff. And then in terms of GPAs, that gets sent electronically through Aries. And then students can add their own test scores should they have them. And I would encourage you to ask your child about the results of their assessments. It's a great conversation starter, and it can lead to a lot of topics that you may want to know where your child stands. Like, where are you applying to college? And, oh, you want to be that major? For what purpose? Oh, because it's going to lead to this type of career. So it can be a great conversation starter. And then I would encourage you to have your child input colleges they're thinking about as they're thinking about it, and start researching their colleges even now. And we went and spoke to the sophomores in their English classes. And I find that especially for college visits, most of the people who visit just in the past are seniors. And we encourage sophomores to go to at least 1 to 2 visits in the fall. The good thing about our college visits this year is that we're doing them in a sort of a hybrid fashion, but the in-person and virtual. So our in-person is actually different, and our in-person is mini fairs during lunch. And so students can just drop by the table, our reps get a little bit more exposure. So we're hoping that students at all grade levels find just ease of connecting to the college reps that are there. But I do encourage sophomores this year to, during our college fair season in the fall, just to drop by once or twice and connect with a representative. And then within the document resources of the Naviance homepage, there are some resources of questions students can ask if they're talking to a college rep. And then encourage your children to continuously fill out your resume as the activities and awards extracurriculars come up. So I think that pretty much wraps up my presentation. I hope you found the information helpful. So when your children do the career components in the spring, you'll know more how to support them and engage with the assessment results. You can help them with the college research and the resume building. So it's got some really good stuff in Naviance. I really, really like it. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. I know I can drone on and on, but I appreciate it. So we have entered our question and answer time. So Chris, please let me know what questions I can answer. What we'll do is answer from the Q&A if we have any, and then after, if we answered all those. Anyone who wants to just unmute themselves and ask a question, feel free.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Maria. There was a lot of really great information. I just having been introduced to Naviance a couple of times now, I noticed those assessments, and they're going to be really helpful to the students. So speaking of those, one of the questions is asking if the assessments are going to be done at school. So you mentioned spring for sophomores, focusing mostly on career, and that's going to be done at school. Is that correct?
Yes.
And regarding the, sorry, I think I had a delay.
You're good. I heard you, I think.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Since Naviance, you said that it is connected with Aries so that the data is current. Naviance factor in the honors classes in the GPA. So when the number is put over, is it including that? There's a couple different GPAs.
So the GPA in Aries is unweighted. We are a school that does unweighted GPAs. And so the GPA that is transferred over into Naviance is an unweighted GPA. And when you look on your child's transcript, you will see 3 GPAs, and it's the top one, the academic GPA 9 through 12 is what's reflected in Naviance. If you wanted a true A.
Okay, so does that have the honors?
I'm sorry, Chris, you cut out.
I'm gonna jump in if I can help at all. I think, yeah, she's trying to determine whether the honors is still included.
No, all our GPAs are unweighted. So nothing that gets a point and bump on the admission side, college admission side, will get a point and bump on our South Pass GPA. So it's just a straight up unweighted. The highest GPA a student can get at South Pass is a 4.0 and nothing higher. So if you wanted to do a true A through G college admissions GPA, you would have to hand calculate it.
Okay. Chris, you there? I could ask a follow-up question,
Yeah.
which is just as far as the weighting. Oh, you there? Okay. As far as the weighting is concerned, what sort of colleges are considering the weighted GPA, even though South Pass doesn't do it?
Pretty much all of them. If you colleges, they have applicants from many different high schools who do GPAs many different ways, so they need to standardize on their end. As a high school, the unweighted GPA was landed upon a while back. And so once a student transcript goes to the college admission side, that's when they will recalculate and add the weight to the classes that get the point bump. Because it's standardized on the college side. So it makes sense. The GPA that they calculate makes sense to them and their admissions officers and practices.
Got it. Okay. I think I'm looking at the chat. I don't hear Christina anymore, so I think she might be out. And
no, I'm here.
Oh, you're okay. Good. I just thought if you were out, I would try to take over. But yeah, you go ahead, Chris.
That's okay. Someone suggested I turn off my video since there was some difficulty hearing me. Am I coming through okay now?
Yes.
Okay, great. One of the other questions we have here in the chat is because earlier in Naviance, when you were exploring the data, where are colleges currently on how they value SAT scores? I know there's some that have gone optional. I think because part of the Naviance data can include their SAT scores, and some schools are valuing that more than others. Can you give some insight on that?
Generally speaking, a lot of colleges are test optional. They were test optional last application season, and they're test optional, a lot of them, for this application season. So it behoves the student to do his or her research and specifically look at what the colleges they're applying to, what their SAT and ACT policies are for this year. For your children, your sophomore children's class of 2024, sorry, 2024, who knows what the SAT and ACT will look like in their particular year. So at this point, because of the pandemic, we are going year to year, and I think colleges are doing the same. Last year, when we were in the height of the pandemic, a lot of colleges went test optional. Some of them went year to year, and some of them are doing a 3-year trial. And what they're doing is interacting and engaging with the data that they find, being a test optional school. Some schools were roughly 50-50 of, who submitted and who didn't. Some schools, the kids that happened to be admitted to their particular schools, maybe a large chunk of them didn't submit their scores. But then that's not true for certain other colleges. So I think my best answer is it just depends. In terms of the data that you can access from the SAT and ACT and Naviance, it's going to be maybe not as current, because a lot of students may not have had the opportunity. So for sophomores, well, actually, let me back up. Generally speaking, we encourage students to take the SAT and ACT the very first time in their junior year spring semester, because that's when they're most, I guess, academically mature. So for sophomores, for a student who is interested in going to a 4-year college and they're currently sophomores, I would encourage them to take the PSAT just to get that exposure. And then you may have also heard this, but the UCs, they're completely not going to acknowledge or accept the SAT and ACT for admission. Last year they started, this year they're not, and then they're ultimately going to come up with their own admissions test that is particular to their needs as a school system. So so it's interesting. It's an interesting topic, the SAT and ACT, and what's going to happen with it in the future. Any other questions about Naviance? Okay.
Well, I don't see another question about Naviance in the chat.
Okay.
I think this person, pardon me? Oh. I think this person's follow-up question was answered about the honors and AP classes having additional points added in the GPA from college admissions offices. I believe you did say, yes, those are the academic GPAs that are calculated. And I think you can probably find that kind of information elsewhere. And that's not necessarily specific to Naviance. So those are the only questions I've had. Open it up to anyone who might want to put their microphone on to ask a question.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for attending. And I hope you have a great evening. Good night.
Ciao. Thank you for all the great information.
You're very welcome. Thank you for helping me.